Can you see my screen? Thanks a lot, bro. I appreciate it. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna show you guys how to set up a development environment. So this is one of my favorite parts about coding altogether, even though you don't get to do it quite often. Um, the one thing I like about it is the fact that whenever I set up a development environment, you get to decide what you want to do with it. That's always been my thought process. So if, for an example, you're a person that can write more than one programming language, you can set up a machine for a specific kind of development instead of like a general development environment. Um, so if you read the Bible, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Um, this is this part when it comes to development. So I do believe this is quite like an important step. Choosing the right operating system kind of dictates what you can and can't do with it. Uh, so me personally, I am very big on cross-platform stuff. That comes with a lot of benefits, and it comes with a lot of disadvantages as well. So I am pro Linux, but I have a Mac right now. And the reason why a Mac works for me with Linux is because they both, okay. So the reason why those work for me is because they both Unix-based operating systems. So, okay.
I think you can continue. I've muted everyone.
Okay, sure, bro. Yeah, so it's because it's a Unix-based operating system. So whatever you could do, if you pick up a Unix operating system, which is almost like a base of many operating systems, is the feel would be more or less the same. It's different if you pick something like Android, for an example, or like Windows. It's a bit different. A quick example, for an example, in Windows, if you wanted to find out the current directory, you would do like a dir. But in a Unix-based operating system, you do a pwd. You can do this in Mac OS, and you can also do this in Linux as well. It'll give you the same output. Um, so you can, again, if you want to switch over, if I've convinced you and you want to switch over to Linux, but you're not entirely ready altogether, there is something called I think it's called a WSL. Yes, it's a WSL. So you're able to run a Linux operating system, and then everything just flows normally. So one of the reasons, again, before I move on to this point, is the fact that most of the web runs on almost 90, if not more, Linux servers. So you're most likely going to meet a Linux server if you work with the cloud, AWS, be Azure, or Google Cloud. You are going to meet it somewhere. Okay, moving on. So that's one point, choosing an operating system. So the next part is you need to choose source control. People tend to use this interchangeably, but actually Git is very different from GitHub. So Git is a source control software that was built by the same guy that's currently building Linux, Linux Torvalds. I think that's how you pronounce his name. So he built it, and the whole point of Linux is for you to version your software or version whatever it is that you're working on. So if you did IT or software development before you were introduced to source control, when you were building a software, let's say for an example, it was for your third year project or whatnot, maybe in your project you had a folder that was like version 1, final version, final version, final version. You had duplicated your code in folders all across because you were doing minor changes and you weren't sure at a specific time which one was actually the one. So this solves that problem. Um, so that's called Git. Now you have a host for Git. So that is a platform that allows you to version your software. So underneath, it uses Git. So everyone should have GitHub. There's other platforms like GitLab and all the others, but GitHub is the most popular, and there's a reason for that actually. So I want to give you a quick example of how something like that would work. So if you don't have it, maybe now is a good time to actually create an account. So let's say, for an example, I'm gonna be starting on a project that I'm gonna be calling sample. Okay, so now this is my repository. This is my project. Now, if I go back on Git again, like I said to this thing, you do need to download it. So if you download it, you install it. After you installed it, you're not gonna see anything visual, but if it says it's installed, trust me, it's there. So the way to check if it is actually installed, I actually do have it installed. You can do git -- version. I'm hoping everyone can see every part of my screen. So if I do that, it tells me the kind of the version of Git that I have on my local machine. So now I have this sample project that I've created. It has one folder called a readme.md file that just has sample in it. So if I want to download this project, I can go here and I can clone it. Now, when you download, when you set up GitHub, you do need to set up your SSH and everything, but you can do cloning over HTTPS. It will be more or less the same thing. So if I go here, I'm on my desktop. So this is my current directory actually it's not my desktop. So if I go to my desktop, I'm on my desktop. So I want to download my project to my local machine. Okay, cool. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so I want to download that project to my local machine, so I do a git clone. So when I hit that, it's gonna clone or download that to my machine. So now if I do, let's say ls again, you'll see on my desktop, I have my presentation folder, and then I have my sample project, which is this project. And if I go into that sample, it's a folder. If I go in that sample folder, you see there's one file called readme.md. So that's the power of that. So for an example, if I wanted to just do some changes on it, let's just do, I'm gonna say, KZN Tech Horizon. Okay, I'm gonna save that. And then if I do a git diff, this is part of the commands that you do with Git. It'll tell you like you deleted this line, so that's a minus, you add this line. So let's say I'm happy with those changes that I've added. You can do some kind of a preview. It will tell you what's changed and what hasn't. So if I say I'm happy with these changes, it will say, cool, you're happy with it. Now if I do a git diff again, you can see nothing comes up. So then I do git add -message and I write my message. Changed my project title. Sorry, it's not git add, it's git commits. Okay, so now let's edit, and then I can do git push -u origin. Origin is the source of where my repository is. So for an example, if I did git remote v, you'll see it will tell you like your repository is here, wide motion, And if you go here as well, you'll see. So that's my origin. So then you can do git push -u origin main, and the main is the branch. So if you look at this thing here, there's one branch, and just that one branch is the main branch. Okay, so I do git push, And that's pushed. So now this should change when I refresh my page. So you have KZN Tech Horizon. So that's where Git helps you. So now if you want to do many other things with many different teams, you can just be like, hey, you are going to work, for an example, on a user feature. So now if I clear this and then I say git do fetch, you'll see it says there's a new branch called feature, and if I do git checkout, user. So now I'm switched on to user, and then I want to do the same thing that I did before. So you can think of this as like a different person. If I do my user, and I do git push. Now this is like a shortcut. This will push to the current branch. Okay. So now you have two people working on different parts. This guy is working on the user. His source code is the user branch. He can do whatever. He can go to town. He can even delete it. Doesn't really matter. This other person, this is the source of truth. This is the main branch. So that's where Git takes you, and that's where it puts you. So make sure you need to get a GitHub account and download Git. Okay. I'll actually post this on the chat. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's the second thing that you need to get. The other one is there's obviously the CLI and the runtime. So the CLI is what you just saw. Now, again, everything that I did here could be done somewhere, but the whole concept is to show you how things work fundamentally, right? Before you decide to just, when you get a new machine, the first thing you want to do is download Visual Studio, but you're not entirely sure for what reason, or if things actually exist outside of that environment. Okay. So let's say, for an example, you are a person that likes C#, right? So C#, just like most programming language or most of some platform, they offer a CLI. So a CLI is a runtime. So they offer the runtime in a shell. A runtime is an environment that allows you to run things on it. It's almost like an operating system. So you have an operating system, and then you have an environment from which C# code could be executed. The reason why you have this environment is because C# code does not compile straight to binary. So it's not something that the processor can interpret. So it's the same thing if you write Java, the JVM. It's a virtual environment from which Java bytecode can run. It's the same thing for Node.js. Node.js is a runtime for JavaScript to execute on a server. If you take something, for an example, like C is different. There's no runtime for C because it executes against the chip or against the core of the operating system. It's the same thing for C++. It's the same thing for Golang. So those are called compiled programming languages. Okay, so let's say, for an example, let's just clear this. Let's just say you like C# and you want to write .NET. So the current version of .NET is 10, I think. But I do have .NET 8 downloaded on my machine, and I'll put it here. You can download the latest version, but I like to stick to things that I know. So I have .NET 8. So again, I have the runtime, I have the SDK. So if I do .NET version, I actually think it's -- version, yeah. So it'll tell me you have .NET, you do have .NET, you have a version 8 of .NET. Okay, cool. So there's some commands that you can go online and you can find out how to do certain things. So let's just say we want to add more meat into this project. So yeah, let's just say more than, let's do get branch dash B feature C, I'll call it C hashtag. Okay, so on my same project, I've now created a branch called feature/C hashtag. What I want to do is I want to create a new .NET project on this. Okay. Now I don't know what's available to me, and I don't know what kind of project that I can create. So if I do a command, this .NET command called .NET new list, then it gives me templates that I could use. So for an example, if you like MVC, you can use it's somewhere here. Yeah, there it is. MVC controller, but I actually want to create a web API, a .NET Core web API. So that's just written as web API. So I'm hoping you at least worked on having a GitHub account or have downloaded Git, or you are downloading .NET. Okay, so let's say .NET new web API, because that's the thing that we want to create, right? Okay, so if I hit that, it's going to tell me that some things have happened. And if I do ls on this project, I do see, in fact, some things have happened. I have a app settings development JSON. I have an app settings JSON. I have OBJ. I have a program.cs, which is the actual source code. So if you read it, you'll see it's the new very Node.js Express template. So this is an API. It has one endpoint called weather forecast, and it will return you an array of things when you hit that endpoint. And there's no other endpoint above that. Okay, so now I have this project, right? I can do git add everything, let me just say, and then I'll say commit-m created new project. So it'll tell me here are the files that were created as part of this change that you want to do. So if I want to do git push, it'll tell me like, hey, the thing that you're trying to push doesn't exist where you want to push it to. So for an example, if you look at this again, there's two branches here. There's the user and there's the main branch. I've created a branch locally, but it has no origin yet. I have not pushed it to the server or to GitHub. So what I can do to sync it up is I can just copy this command, paste it, and do a hit. Cool. So now if I go here again, so which means you can version your code locally without having to need the internet. So you can work on different things at the same time without them contradicting. So if I go on my C hashtag branch, you will see I have my stuff there. I have my code, I have whatever. Okay, so now I want to run this and actually see if it works. So you can do .NET build. What this will do is it will build a bytecode for the .NET environment to be able to run. So C# uses these DLL files. So you can actually run this. When you run this DLL file, it runs on a .NET environment. For an example, if I just copy this whole thing and then do .NET and paste it, you see it's telling me that it's now listening on this directory. So if I go to there, it tells me that nothing is there. So there was a weather forecast. That was the endpoint that we looked at. So that is, if I go to the program.cs, that is this thing. So it's an API. It'll return weather forecast information. So you see, that's what's happening there. Okay, cool. So notice I've done all this and I haven't downloaded an editor. I haven't downloaded Visual Studio. I've not downloaded anything. I've just downloaded it, the CLI and the runtime, and I'm able to do the same things as someone else would. Okay, cool. I'm going to continue. Okay, so you know what the CLI does and what the runtime means. So now you need to choose an environment from which you need to actually write code, because you cannot write your code on the terminal. That's just not practical. You have a lot of files that you need to work with, and you need to choose a text editor. You need to choose something that actually tells you, like, maybe you're doing this wrong, maybe do that instead. So text editors come with a lot of things. They come with IntelliSense, they come with extensions, they come with plugins, whole lot of things. And it's important to use the right editor for the right job. As a person, I like to be very minimal on my environment. So I'd only download what I need, only get what I need for a specific thing. I don't want to have to have, let's say, for an example, an Android Studio editor, and all I'm doing with it is writing HTML. Like, just not a good use of that. Besides that, it's just going to choke your computer for no reason. So one of the most popular ones at the moment is Visual Studio Code. Okay, I actually do have VS Code. So if this is my Visual Studio Code, and on my desktop, I'm going to open my sample project. Yes, I trust it. So now you'll see things will start to look a little bit different. So you see there's things being downloaded, there's things being analyzed, there's just a lot going on. It tells me I need to sign in to something. Not sure why I need to. And there's some things at the bottom. You've got Copilot, because I use AI. And then if you look at this bottom left, there is this feature C hashtag branch, which is the current branch that I'm working on. So most text editors have a GitHub integration. If you look at this, for an example, it says, these are all the files that have been changed currently, because I did run that build command. It created a bin directory. It also created an obj directory. You can do something like, I think it's .get ignore, to say, I actually don't care about the bin directory. I actually don't care about the obj directory. And you see these things will just disappear now. It says, okay, well, I guess you're not very interested in that, so I'll just take it out of your life. So now things become easier, more visual. If you're writing weird stuff, you see it will tell you, like, whoa, that's not how you write C#. I expected this there. If I do app dots, I have more functions open to me, so I can do all sorts of different things. Okay, so you can write C#, you can do .NET, and just Visual Studio Code, not Visual Studio Code. That's just an editor, but you do need a bit of plugins for it to be able to understand certain things. So for an example, this is installing the base language support for C#. So I'll restart the extension. It has the C# dev kit. So it allows you to do, let's say, for an example, if I go here, if I go on this debug thing, I can do run or debug. I can choose the debugger, which is C#. And the name of the project is this one and this. And you'll see something hopefully now. Okay, that's terminated. Okay. Okay, so you see what happened? It opened something for me automatically. So this is the same thing that I was showing you previously. And if I do this try and do get, it'll give me the same stuff. It's just more aesthetic or more visually pleasing. So it's easier to look at. And now if you see, it's kind of like red around, and then there's some buttons here that I can stop this debugging, or I can restart it. So now I can change things on the fly and things will happen. So let's say, for an example, I want just this freezing, and I do restart. And I believe it's going to open a new one. Yes. Okay, so now if I do try again, execute, it's just all temperatures and freezing. Again, if I do it here, it'll be, all right, you can run multiple ones. Okay, so you notice how you could have all these kind of things. You can do all these kind of things. You can see them. This is just becomes a bit easier for you. Now, there is a next step to this is if you decide, for an example, like, hey, you know what, bro? I do like Visual Studio Code, but I like a thing for like a specific thing. So for an example, if you're a person that says, hey, I only write C# and I would love to just write it on Visual Studio. Okay, so if when you decided to choose your universe, you chose Linux or Mac OS, the bad news is it's too late. You can't have Visual Studio anymore. But luckily, I guess it's not so bad. There is a company called JetBrains. JetBrains creates a lot of great tools, great software, and one of the software that you've probably heard about is ReSharper. ReSharper is an extension for C#. It's also available in Visual Studio. JetBrains have a subscription where everything that they build is available for students for free. Okay, you just need to prove that you're a student. Now, I'm not a student, but I can always prove that I'm a student because I have a DUT email that never expires. So I can always confirm that I am. Yes, this is my student email from DUT, and yes. Okay, so now, so I have the stuff that I need. So in this case, you want to write C#, but you can't have. Let's just go. You can't have Visual Studio. So as you can see, so meet the Visual Studio family. If you look at these icons here, so this Visual Studio, available only for Windows. If you want Visual Studio-like features, unfortunately for you, you have to go for Visual Studio Code. But we all know Visual Studio Code isn't Visual Studio. It's just not the same. But if you get something like Rider, it becomes more or less the same. And I'll show you what Rider looks like because I have it. So this is just a little side project that I'm working on. So you can see it looks a bit familiar. You have your C# stuff on the left. You can click buttons. You can plug in your databases. So most of the features that you would see on Visual Studio are available on Rider. It's literally exactly the same thing. The difference is it's cross-platform. So you're able to run it on your Linux and you're able to run it on your Mac and your Windows and wherever else that you want to run it from. Okay, cool. But if you like Rust and you want something heavily, just an IDE for specific thing, there's Rust Rover. For C++, there's Goland. You can go to town with them. They're pretty good. Okay, so that's free for students. If you can prove that you're a student, you just need to sign up an account. JetBrains, if you just search for JetBrains students, there's a JetBrains student pack. It's right here. So you can start on that and just follow along. That will take you where you need to be. I'm just going to stop this. Okay, so that's the IDE part and choosing the right one. This is just an added thing. I don't know if what is this? MS SQL Studio is available on other operating system besides Windows. I believe if you want to run this, you need to use Docker or something like that. But again, these are the disadvantages of having picked something like Linux. You have to find alternative tools for stuff. But when it comes to the cloud, then you have the advantage because you see the same things. So what I do like to use, or what I use, is this thing called dbeaver. It does literally the same things. It's a plugin for MySQL, MS SQL, your document DBs, Dynamos, MongoDBs. I like to use free stuff because I don't have a lot of money. So normally if I have to choose a tool and it's convenient and I spend less money on it, I will use it. So for an example, if I have to choose a database for something, I will most likely use a MySQL database because it is free. Okay, cool. And then you should have an environment at that time that you can do whatever you want with. And 5 minutes to spare. Any questions from anyone? I'll stop sharing. I believe.
So hi guys. You can ask your questions on the chat also. We can read it out for Solomzi. So does anyone have any questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can speak, T.
Yes. Hi, Solomzi. Thank you for the session. So I have two questions, if I may. So the first one is about Git and GitHub. So I've worked on a few collab projects with some of my friends and whatnot, and most of the time, okay, all the time, we all just commit to the main branch. Maybe it's because of a lack of knowledge with side branches and stuff. So we all just Git push origin main.
Yeah.
Can you please give like maybe if you can like a small short rundown on if you are using branches, how do you then merge everything together? Like yeah, because normally it's like three or four of us working on projects and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good question. Very practical. So let me just share this again. Share an entire window. Okay, so if we go back again to our projects, so the idea, you can kind of like form a strategy with your team, but the idea is the main branch becomes the source of truth. All the working software needs to be on the main branch. All the software that you are currently working on, but you're not entirely sure if it's ready or not, it should be on your own side branch. So whatever you do from there, whether if things work or whatever, that's your own endeavor, that's your own side things. It doesn't affect the other teams. With everyone pushing to main, is someone might push something to main that isn't ready yet, and then you're gonna clone those changes and put them on your stuff, and then you start working, and things just don't work, and you're not sure why, right? So what you'd normally do is when your branch is ready, so for an example, this C hashtag feature branch is ready, you do something called a pull request. You can write some information of what you did. So I'd say edit API as an example. You invite your homies to review this. Now you can set up some rules on certain branches. You can say this code will not be merged unless one of my team members has reviewed it and they have approved it. So it doesn't go anywhere unless that's happened. So when everyone else is happy with it, they've approved it, then this becomes like a green button, and then you can merge it. Okay. So now your source branch is still there, but if you also go to the main branch, the code that you've written is now there, and you can track how it came there, right? Here's the branch, and you had merged it, someone else had approved it. So that's how that works. And it also shows visibility on your team as well, because they are aware that something has gone to main, even if they don't review it, but they are aware that there's new changes because you made the request.
Okay, makes sense. No,
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. And my second question. So, I'm used to using MongoDB, right? Because it's cloud hosted and yeah, you won't need to worry about any hosting for it. So small projects, you have nothing to pay for, right? Because we don't have money, right? So I wanted to ask, in terms of SQL, so I'm planning a project, so we want to try use SQL. So now can you collaborate with SQL as you would be able to on Mongo if it's not hosted yet, or do you need to host? And if so, can you use GitHub for my SQL databases with you and work on it as a collaboration? I hope my question makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you can, yes, you can. What you normally do is you define. Okay, so the best way to do this is the flexibility that a document DB gives you is that, for an example, if we're working on a project together, we have a user model. We decided that a user has a name, surname, and a password. If I
Yes.
decide, if I decide on my side, the user will now have an email and an age, right? And I add that to our database. Nothing is going to fall apart from your side, right?
Yeah.
Everything else will still work. Your database can morph and change at any time. It's acceptable. So there's the flexibility of it.
Yeah.
So if you have a SQL-based database, you can run that locally, so you can have your own instance of the database. So you define the tables and columns, and you run that. You can run that locally. On the one that you want to collaborate on, then that one you have to host. You can't host it on on GitHub. It works like you basically need a server for it, just like your local machine becomes a server from it. You also need a server to host it. Uh, so you can
Okay.
host it. You can host it on any server, I believe, and it'll just work. So you just need the instance, just the instance, and then it'll work. But while you're working and collaborating, it's better to have your own local instance and just work on that. But
Yeah.
you can still point your project to the remote, so the one that you hosted. But just
Oh,
best practices, like just do it locally. And then if there's a new change or a new field that the other person needs to be aware of, you just need to tell them. Again, you
okay.
can also put all those table versions on your GitHub or source control so they can see like, oh, cool, he's added a new field. Let me update
Oh,
my as well.
all right. All right. No, it makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Short. Good questions, man.
So our next question is from Tlagani Excellent. He's asking which programming language are you currently, I think he wanted to say using. And then, oh yeah, sorry, you can talk because he asked two questions. I'll ask the next one after.
The one, so for work, I use TypeScript with Node. So that's mostly what I use for Office. But for my own projects, I use C#.NET, as you saw. And for my other projects, I use Go. So for anything, if I'm very concerned about speed, being lightweight and performance, and it's not a big project, I would use something like, I would use Golang. But if I'm building something that I see is going to be bigger and I need a lot more discipline, then I would use I would use C#. C# is nice in that it's object oriented, so you can sort of see things and how they add up. Go is different. It's a functional programming language, so there's no classes and things like that. So you look at it a bit different, but it's made for building microservices and it's made for high performance. So those three: TypeScript for work. If I'm looking for something big gun is C#. If I'm looking for high performance on something, then I would write it in Go.
Okay, I hope Tlagani, you got the answer you were looking for. His other question is, any advice to your younger self straight out of uni, specifically if you want to pursue backend?
If you want to pursue, just read a book. I think for me, when I was in varsity, I think in my first year, I really struggled with programming. In my second year, it gave me anxiety, and a lot of people don't believe that, but it's true. Like proper anxiety. I don't know I had anxiety in my life until I was doing that stuff. So though I remember there was one instance where they introduced like classes. So when we started out, like there was a thing called code behind. So you drag and drop a button, and then you double click it, and then it will send you into this method where you write code, and then when you click that button, the code would execute. And then they said, hey, you need to take all this code and then put into a class. And then I freaked out. So on my third year, I felt like it is something that I wanted to do. So to press on it, I read an ASP.NET MVC5 book. It had some examples in it. So I read that book during the December holidays and then doing those examples in preparing for my third year. It is only then that I actually understood what I was doing. So if you not a tutorial, nothing on YouTube, because that's what I was doing the whole time. Just take one book. It could be in any kind of programming language. It will teach you anything about any other programming languages. Take it, read it. There's an author called O'Reilly. I don't know if it's an author. It's like O'Reilly Books, and all that publishers' books are based on programming. So, and they usually have like animals on the cover. So I'll show you. I'll just give you a screenshot of one. So I read one of those. They're really good. Like those guys, they know what they're doing. Actually, I can't paste something here. Okay, but I'll paste the link. It's O'Reilly. So to my younger self, I would have asked. I would have been in my first year, told myself, like, just get a book on this stuff and try to read it. Maybe it will become easier. Because now I struggled with YouTube tutorials, and YouTube tutorials are very specific. Like, someone might not go on that one particular issue that you have, and then you're going to have 100 tabs open, but still no solution.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to be asking the last question because we need to think about time. I'm going to combine both of these questions. Why Go and not Python? And is Go an easy programming language to pick up?
Go is the easiest programming language that you can write. Go is made for simplicity. The idea behind Go was to have something as powerful as C++. Sorry, let me just get my charger. When Google engineers built Go, they wanted to have a similar performance with something like C++, but less complicated. So C++ is known for its complications. So like I said, Go isn't a object-oriented programming, it's more of a functional programming. So it is very simple. It is very simple. It is the easiest thing that you can pick up. It's easy to pick up. It's very easy, almost to a level of Python, kind of easy. Why not Python? Python is very slow. For me, Python is a classic example of a programming language being built for a specific thing and then being used for everything and anything because of its simplicity. It's just like JavaScript was made for the web and the browser, but because of its simplicity, someone decided, like, why don't we use JavaScript on the back end? Why can't we do that? And then they built Node, but it wasn't made for that. So for me, that's why Python. I don't have a use for Python. Anything that I would like to write with Python, I would write with, say, JavaScript, just to move on, because to me it is as simple. To my suite of programming languages that I know, it doesn't add value. Like, I have something for performance, I have something for discipline, strict, I have something for, I just want to write a quick script that does 1, 2, and 3. That's already there. So it doesn't fit. That's why I don't write it. Also because of its performance.
Okay, thank you. I said last question, but someone just said, how do you do storage management in your machine after so much installation?
Storage management.
Yes, on your machine after so much installation.
Just take what you need. Don't download everything and anything. Just take what you need. I don't have storage problems because I don't download anything else. All the software that I have is everything that I need. So I don't know how you deal with storage problems. Like, if you have storage problems, even in varsity, and I had movies, I would have movies on my Intel Celeron computer. But yeah, I never had storage. So don't download everything. Just download the specific things that you need. So sometimes people download things out of being optimistic. So for an example, I want to learn how to write Android, and they just have Android Studio sitting there for 2 years, but just delete it, because if you're not using it, remove it. I guess that's my answer to that.
Okay, thank you so much, Solomzi Chigani, for sharing your knowledge with us. And it was really, really helpful, and really, we gained a lot of knowledge from it. Yeah, thank you so much.